Hi, my name is Storm, and I'm a massive nerd, and I love reading. I am a massive bookworm. It's one of my favorite hobbies ever. Like, I do it all the time. I wish I had more time to read, but I am in school, and that takes up a good chunk of my life, actually, even when I'm outside of school, because, homework. But in my free time, one of the things I like to do is read, and these are my 5 favorite books ever. And I'm going to tell you about them. Okay, so the first one doesn't have a cover. I got this at a book giveaway sale kind of thing, where basically if you brought your own bag, if you filled up that bag with as many books as you could, all of those books, $5. I was super excited about that. And this book didn't have a cover, it didn't have any kind of description on it, but I read the first page, and I was like, this sounds really interesting, I'm gonna buy it. And it's called, I don't know if my camera flips it. It's called No Time for Goodbye by Linwood Barclay, and it's really good. I've read it over and over again, and it's like a mystery kind of book. It's very, very good. It's about this girl, and her name is Cynthia, and when she was 15 years old, Cynthia went out to this party one night. Her dad found her, brought her back home. She got in a fight with her parents because she was drunk. And the next morning, she wakes up. Her mom, her dad, her mother, so her entire... her mom, her dad, her brother, sorry. So her entire family that she lived with, gone. Completely disappeared. And she has no idea what happened to them. And then that's the first chapter. And then the rest of the book is she's 30 now. She's married to this guy and she has a kid. And she's just trying to move on with her life after this, terrifying, traumatic event has happened to her. And suddenly, a bunch of strange things start happening to her and her family. And she thinks it's connected to her family's disappearance 15 years ago. And it's so well written. I love the ending is really good. It's written by a man, which scared me a little bit at first, but there's no men writing women moments in here, and that made me so happy, because I just didn't want to deal with that. But yeah, these are in no particular order, by the way, but this is one of my 5 favorite books ever. Yeah. Okay, basic bitch moment here, but another one of my favorite books is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I got this book for my birthday in 8th grade. My friend Hannah, she got me tabbed and annotated the book for me, which I just thought was the sweetest thing ever. So obviously I read it immediately, and I fucking fell in love. Oh my god, this book made me cry multiple times, in fact, because I'm a little weak bitch and I cry when I read. But it's so good, and if you don't know what it's about, which would be surprising because it's one of the most popular books, I'm pretty sure, at least. It's about this boy named Charlie, and the whole story is told through him writing these letters to these unnamed, kind of unknown friend, as Charlie calls him, and it's basically just a coming-of-age story about how Charlie makes friends with these seniors, and how, he's just, trying to navigate the world, basically, and also his own trauma. It's really good. I think I've read it more times than I can count. I want to get my own copy of it so I can annotate it myself. But yeah, it's my number 2 on my list of, in no particular order, once again, of my 5 favorite books. Another basic bitch moment here, but the third one on my list is Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Glasgow. It's so good. Oh my god, it's so good. You can probably tell by the title if you haven't heard of it. It's emotionally devastating, but so good. I read this book, I reread it every time there's a big change in my life. So I'm actually rereading it right now because I'm going to reread it after I finish the book I'm currently reading, but I'm going to reread it again soon. And it's so good. It's such at least in my opinion, from my own experiences, it's such a realistic and I don't know if visceral is the right word I'm looking for, but that's the word I'm going to use. Description or depiction of struggling with bad mental health and self-harm. And basically, the book is about this other girl who's also named Charlie. That's really funny. This girl named Charlie. A lot of C names. who, the story starts with her being in the mental hospital after she tried to herself, and, basically, she gets out of the mental hospital, and she thinks she's gonna go home and live with her mother, but her mother's like, nuh-uh, you're gonna have to go find somewhere else. So she moves down to Arizona to go live with her friend Mikey, and the book is about her trying to recover from everything that's happened to her in her life, and it's so heartbreaking, but it's also so beautiful, and the ending is, I'm not gonna spoil it, there's no spoilers, but the ending is like a bittersweet ending, and me personally, I love bittersweet endings. I like them better than happy endings. I don't like sad endings, but I don't like happy endings all that much. Bittersweet endings are my favorite kind of ending, and this book has a bittersweet ending, and that made me really, really appreciate it much more. This is one book that I personally have annotated myself. I think it's so good. This is solely because I am a gay stereotype and an Alice Oseman fan. Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I love this book so much. You'd think because I'm a romantic that Loveless would be my favorite Alice Oseman book, but it's not. Loveless is my second favorite. But Radio Silence, this book is so good. I heard about this book at summer camp because one of my friends at the summer camp that I go to, she was reading it, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool looking book cover, and she was like, oh, it's really good. And she, like, told me what it's about, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And she's like, do you want to read it? I was like, oh my god, yeah, and she let me read it. And as soon as I got home from summer camp, I walked up to my parents, and I was like, we need to go to the bookstore, and I need to buy this book. And they were like, yeah, okay, we can do that soon. But it's so good. Basically, I don't know, I always have a really hard time explaining the premise of this one, so apologies if this isn't a good explanation. But, it's about this girl. Her name is Frances. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm really bad at names. And she's a nerd, basically, and a nerd in more ways than one. Basically, at school, she's like a study nerd, you know, she's good at school, that's like her thing at school, but in her spare time, she's like a fandom nerd. And her favorite thing ever is this YouTube podcast series called Universe City. And she's obsessed with this podcast. She loves it so much. She listens to all of the episodes. She draws fan art of it. And this fan art one day attracts the attention of the creator of Universe City. And he messages her and is like, hey, would you want to do the art for the next episode of Universe City? And she's like, oh my god, I would love that. But it turns out that the creator is actually this guy who she had met a few days earlier. And she had, like, driven him home after a party because he was drunk as hell. And they became friends in real life at the same time that she found out that he was the creator. And then, so they were two best friends working on Universe City, this podcast, together. And then it's later on in the story, the guy who she's friends with, his name is Alid. I still don't know if that's how you pronounce that either. It gets found out that he's the creator, and they have a big fight over that. And it's so beautiful. And one of the things that I really loved about this book is that they don't fall in love. I was so happy when I learned that the two main characters in this book were like purely platonic, because I actually genuinely hate romance novels. I've never read a romance novel that I've really liked, and I was so happy that they're like just friends in this book, and I think they have a beautiful and very caring friendship, and I really appreciate that. It was very refreshing to read a book about like a genuine, true platonic love that made me really happy personally. And I just think I love the premise. It sounds so simple, but the way they write it, the way Alice Oseman writes it, seems so extraordinary for something that seems very, like, mundane in normal life. Radio Silence. It's a great book. And finally, my last book on this list of my 5 favorites is called Marilyn the Magician by Patricia C. Reed. Now, Patricia C. Reed is a absolutely amazing author, and it makes me so sad because I never see anyone talking about her. I've talked to so many people in my life who are like bookworms, and I've talked to so many people who consider themselves to be bookworms online, and no one has ever fucking heard of Patricia C. Reed. And it makes me so sad because her books are amazing. She has so many good, she's a great fantasy writer, which I don't normally like fantasy, but she makes me like fantasy. She's a great author. One of her most popular series is The Enchanted Forest Chronicles, but that's not this book. This is my favorite book by her, Marilyn the Magician, and it's so good. It's about this girl, her name is Kim, and it's in like old England, like it's old English is I don't know. Not like old English, it's not written in old English, but it's like I don't know exactly what year it is, but they're in London and it's like way in the past. Like they don't have cars yet. That old. And it's about this girl named Kim who's like dressing up as a boy, and she's like a street thief and all that, and she is paid to rob this magician's, not rob, she's paid to look around inside of this magician's cart and see if he has this like fancy bowl that this guy who's paying her really wants. And she's like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird, but I'll do it because money's money, right? And she like goes and she's snooping around inside this cart, and then the magician finds her. Surprise, surprise, the magician is Marilyn the Magician, you know, the namesake of the book. And he's like, he could be mad at her. He could have been like really mad at her, but he's not. He's like, do you want to come travel with me and I can teach you how to read and write and stuff? She was like, are you for real? And he was like, yeah. And it's so good. I haven't read it in a while, so I don't remember exactly the premise, but that's the basic premise of it. And Patricia C. Reed is a great author. Even if you don't like the sound of that book, you should check out literally any book by her, because she's so great. I could talk about her for so long. She's an amazing author, and it does honestly make me really sad that she doesn't get a lot of recognition, because I have never read a book by Patricia C. Reed that I haven't loved. So yeah, those are my 5 favorite books. You should check them out if you're into reading like that, which I don't know why you would watch that if you aren't. But thank you for watching. I love you so much. Free Palestine.